Sorry about that, guys. How are we all doing? For the first time in a long time, I am very late. I am literally an hour late. How are we all doing? How are we all doing? Yeah, today is a steady stream. We are basically going to be learning, but I want to start with a few puzzles. As always, puzzles are a very good way of warming yourself up into the game. So it's pretty obvious that is what we are looking for. Pawn push takes, pawn push, check, right? If king takes, queen comes in, check, check, checkmate, right? Pawn push, pawn takes, pawn push. If king goes back, I think we just have pawn push here, and then we take here and it's checkmate. But it's basically this. There's always a move I haven't looked at. Okay, so possibly takes here. Hi, Balik. Unfortunately, I don't have a translator. So welcome to the stream. Takes. I'm sure pawn push is viable. But you target this, and you like get ready for the king. So I still think you take and I play pawn push. Yeah. I still think you do this and you play pawn push. I see this, I see an attack. Question is, how do you fulfill the attack? Our opponent can definitely do this. Maybe it's not a mate we are looking for. Takes here with check. Our opponent has to respond. Let's say he takes this. What do we do? Knight takes, checks, pawn takes. Again, in line with this. Bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes, check. Then we have like pawn push here. I don't know how good this is. How about simply just pawn push here? Pawn push here, bishop takes, doesn't make any sense because I take the queen. Pawn push, can't take this guy. You probably have to go pawn takes. After pawn takes, then you have a double check. Takes this way. So what can my opponent do after this? Again, pawn push, I win. I win your queen. Pawn push, I don't know where the queen can go. The queen doesn't seem to have a place it can go. So I'm expecting our opponent would have to, I don't know, this is just good. Now, what I don't know, right? What I don't know in this whole position is what I do after. Right? Like after I take here and the king moves, I don't know what I do after. You can simply do this, but that's a double check, right? Why not? Wait. Oh, bishop takes. Oh, okay. But that was actually very interesting to figure out because. But why can't my opponent? Okay, check here. He's not going on well. Knight takes, we take the queen. My opponent has no choice in this matter. And since the double check, he can't respond. Ooh. Interesting. The most obvious move is this. The opponent has rook. Okay, there's check here. King comes in here. Check here. Hey, Cecilia Ninja, how are you doing? Today I was late, so you are officially early. If I'm sure if I had ended up, if I had started the stream at 10 a.m., 10:30 like I usually do, you would have been late. So I started the stream late today, so you are early. Check. King hides here. After you do the rook check, and then I don't know what to do. Because this is a very easy place for your opponent to hide. Check here, check. Then when you hide here, I don't see the way forward. Again, this is an issue. Oh, wait, could it be that now we play this move? We use this rook rather to threaten checkmate. That way, if our opponent comes in here, we check and then we dodge. I don't know, because... Okay, so let's assume the position. King is on this square, queen is here, rook is here. My opponent plays check. I dodge this way. He comes in, check again. Always have to observe if this queen can do something. Check, I come in this way. Check again, I come up. Check. I go up. Check, I come in this way. And now the queen can check me here, but then I have this move. And he... This is so confusing. Could it just be dealing with this guy, like... Maybe. So I think things, and a simple thing I make it look very difficult. Because the first thing I looked at was this. Rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, king takes. Queen takes here. Queen takes, knight takes, and then we can just take here, right? Is it just simply this, rather than this long convoluted line I was talking about? We can use some Occam Fraser here, right? Instead of going for this convoluted line, maybe it's just this line. Maybe it was the convoluted line. It was the convoluted line. What? Huh? This one? What? Even my convoluted line doesn't have the full information. Okay. Oh, now it makes sense. Okay. So the point is, the way I was talking about the line, right? The first one, sorry, here. If we go here, and our opponent goes takes, I'm thinking this is the point. Takes, right? Our opponent has, for example, this move. Let me just use this move. I don't think it's a good move, but takes. Let's just use this move. The difference here is that, unless of course I'm wrong, is that once we go here with check, right, and he goes this way, and then we go here, here, you can't move this way so easily because that's basically what I'm trying to say. That's basically what I'm trying to say. But of course, your opponent can't do that. You would have to go for a check. And here I'm not so sure. Let's say I come in this way. Can my opponent check me again? No. Right? He has no good checks. He can't check me again. And now he's in danger of getting mated. Right? 1, 2. That's basically the point I'm trying to make. Because the queen is here, you are easily trying to mate. But rather than with the queen, I think here was that where the queen was. Yeah. You get it. It's actually a very interesting puzzle. I just couldn't fathom it. Okay. Okay. Now I'm enjoying this because I'm learning a lot. Pawn push. As in puzzles. This king and pawn puzzles, I mean. This is the key thing for me. I should also realize that my opponent has pawn push, which can open his position up. So is this simply a waiting move here? What my lichess username? Lebanon. If I play this, playing pawn push takes, maybe I can slide in this way. Or should I just go pawn push first? Sorry, king up first. King up, pawn push. That way if he takes, I take this way. So king up, pawn push, he's going to lock it up. If I go this way first, he has to make a pawn push somewhere. If he makes a pawn push over here, I think we just take this way. And we can easily stop this guy. The king can't move forward. There's also the pawn push. If my opponent takes and I take, then I can actually walk this way. But if my opponent is fully aware of that, like assuming that my opponent is fully aware of that, pawn push. Pawn push, he just locks the position up. This is easy. Well, I'm calculating it out. So king up, pawn push, takes, we are done. King up here, takes, if he takes, we come in here. So I want to start with king up. Let's say my opponent plays this move. We can go takes. Right, because if he takes, then we just, again, we come in here. So king up is what I want to start with. King up, if he plays this move, I take, pawn push. I can catch up with the pawn, and these two pawns can promote. So I don't think this move is something my opponent should play. Please, I'm not accepting challenges. I don't know who sent the challenges, but please, I'm not accepting challenges today. I played videos on Friday. I think it's king up. King up. Okay, king up, my opponent goes this way. We can now play this move, because if he goes pawn push, I jump in this way. I think it's king up first. Yeah, if he takes here, we take. I thought I calculated this already, that if we take here, if we take, it's not allowing. Okay, I can't do the analysis now. The only way I saw that this move makes any sense I'm no, okay. Well, that sucks. That sucks. Sicilian Ninja, is that what you thought it was? Sicilian Ninja, is that what you thought it was? Because I was like, I mean, if I take here, what can my opponent do? He plays this, I can... Oh, yeah, no, still. I can work my way through. Right. Right, we'll just believe you. We will just believe you. Takes. Yeah, I'm like, come on. I mean, I thought... Oh, boy. How did I not... I think I got the analysis correct, but I thought that pawn push here was not necessary. If your opponent takes here, you could take here. I don't know if you'd really want to do that. Nah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I think you take first. Nope. But then he would lock the position. Actually, wait. The G5 push by black means it will take your opponent 5 moves max to promote this move, yeah. Okay, wait. Okay, I'm coming. If he takes here, pawn push I feel like is a bad idea. Maybe not. Wait, let's see. No, he promotes with check. That's the issue I have. Takes. I think the king comes back. My opponent can come in this way, but then we come in this way. He comes in this way, and then we have this move. He will never get to this point. Okay, let's just not let him go back. Let's play pawn push. Yeah, we played king here. Pawn push. We can take, if he comes here, we still have pawn push. And it's a rectangle, right? It's a rectangle. Plus my king is more central, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was the move I was looking at earlier, which made me cancel anything happening here, is I could do this, and I simply, if my opponent makes any attempts, we can just do something with the pawns, right? We can just do something with the pawns, and eventually these guys become very dangerous. Right, the king can't go too far because these guys become dangerous. Luca Maya, how are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. One more puzzle and then we go into the study. Today has not been a very good puzzle day. Hi. Okay, how you doing? Do puzzle streak. I'll have to do that a little bit later. Takes. Doesn't work for me. Check here. Queen takes. Queen take. Why do my puzzle streak is better? Puzzle streak is incrementally difficult. But here, if you are of a high rating, it's difficult throughout. Oh yeah, I do that. That's what I do on a tournament preparation basis. I do play 40 puzzle streaks. But with this, we are just doing streak, not storm. Yeah, puzzle streak isn't that the one where um if you get one wrong it resets? The first thing I looked at was this. Check here. Takes here, check, king takes. But then my queen wait, my queen can. Okay, wait. So do we play bishop takes rather? We can play bishop takes because we don't want to allow our opponent to get. Oh wait, he doesn't have those checks. He has this check. Yeah. But with that one, if I'm doing 40 a day, I have to, like, if I'm doing 40, I have to make sure I get 40 before I stop, right? And if I make a mistake, I'd have to keep restarting. So I prefer this one where I'm just doing 5. But it's, yeah, I would recommend that if anybody wants to do 40 and B, that's actually very good. Bishop takes, pawn takes, check, king takes, check, and then we have, oh wait, then if we take with the, okay, wait, the bishop cannot, wow. So if we play knight takes, I expect our opponent to play pawn takes. You can try and sacrifice the bishop here. I don't know. Very complex. I don't know which one to take because I'm realizing that if we do get what we are looking for, our opponent can run here, and I don't know if we can defend against it. I would like the bishop here, so I'm thinking it's knight takes first, but I don't like knight takes first. Yeah, I would have preferred bishop takes first. Wow, it's none of those. So wait, did we start with this first? No. And this is the funny thing. When I finally get it correct, everything I've said is going to come into play. And that's the most annoying part of it all. So what could it be? I'll figure it out. My king is also very locked up, so it's like I'm not so keen on playing certain moves. Check here removes this guy. Then we have the rook takes. Why can't I figure this out? But the opponent even has just this rook. Wait, it can't simply be that. Like, if it's that, I'll feel so stupid. Like, just playing it. This is the first option I saw. I think you can rewind. But I immediately cut it off because I'm like, we are just taking the queen and then winning the rook, I guess? Okay, then I'm not correct. Okay, then I have no idea what I'm talking about. I was thinking it was going to, okay, yeah, I'm just done. I'm just done. Look, I saw it and I was like, oh wait. This is how I saw it when I calculated, and I just threw it away immediately. I was like, oh wait, takes, king takes, and then we win the rook. I'm like, why would I want to play this? Right, that's what I was thinking. It's 4-4, but I was like, why would I want to play this? Then I immediately brushed away the idea, and I completely missed the fact that I could actually do this. Yeah, I'm so pissed off. I'm so pissed off that I did that. Wow, so how many points did I drop by? $47. Wait, we did 3 puzzles already? Okay, so we have to work our way back here. and then we'll continue from there. Okay, so guys, steady stream. I wanted to, last time we did, I don't know if we finished it. We can finish that now. I actually wanted to look more into, I said look more into, I actually wanted to study the Najdorf opening today. Right, that's what I wanted to do. The Najdorf Sicilian. I said the Najdorf opening. The Najdorf Sicilian. That's what I wanted to do today. But we can finish up with the king and pawn end games. I think we did about 2, or we did just 1. With the king and pawn end games. Where is it? Chess. Where is it? Stream studies. Yeah. So like I said, with these steady streams, you always have the link available. You can always bookmark it. You can join the Discord and get it. You always have access to it. It's not like I'm the only one benefiting from this. The lines are there, so at the end I always try and curate the lines so there's not like a whole lot of fluff, so it's something you can follow. I'm thinking about going back and then like going through them and then wording them sort of like guides, so that you kind of understand the thought process that we went through. So one of the study streams, we looked at this version of the London system. I know everybody hated that day, but we're looking at this version of this London system where we don't do the usual bishop to g3, and we looked at this line. And whenever my opponents allow me to play this line, it's very interesting because we get certain ideas with knight and then g4 in some of the lines. This is just one of the lines we looked at. Then another time we looked at the Queen's Gambit. We didn't do the Slav yet. We did the Polizuka toward Queen's Gambit declined. All these lines are there in the link that I've sent you. If you're interested, you can check it out, and so on and so forth. Then we looked at this. Wait, there should be more chapters here. So the last steady stream we did, we were looking at king and pawn end games, and we analyzed this position. And the first move, I act like a king and pawn end game, but the first idea was this. I was thinking that if the idea is to bring the king closer to the center, but then it was pointed out to me that you want to deal with this issue first, so you play pawn push, and a whole line develops. In as much as the engine thinks that we were playing well, it concluded that the position is a draw, but your opponent has to make the best move. So here white is pushing for a win. So we can do the other positions. There were about 5. Give me a second. There were 5 endgame positions that we wanted to look at. So you can take your pick whether you want us to look at the Sicilian, or you want us to look at these end games. Okay. Yeah, we've not looked at this one. FEN. Where's FEN? And look at this. And we can look at this. They are all just endgame positions where either white is better, white is bad, white is better, white is losing slightly, or it's a draw. So trying to draw a losing position, trying to win a winning position, and then trying to draw a losing position. Those are the 3 things we are looking for. We are not trying to lose a losing position. We are trying to draw a losing position. So yeah, we can look at these 2 positions and go from there. So as always with these streams, if you have any questions, always feel free to ask. I'm ready to answer any questions you have on chess improvement. Give me a second. I wasn't checking my. A second. Okay. So we can take a look at this. So if I remember, when I turn on the engine here, this position should be. I don't look. We're not looking at the. Let's use full screen for this one. We are not looking at the moves of the engine just yet. We does it do this sometimes? Give me a second. Okay. This is kind of fine. This is kind of fine. Okay, we can use this. We can see everything. So I think when I turned on the engine here, it's minus 0.5, which means that even though black is definitely better, you still have a lot of work to do before you can win this position. So the question should try and find the best ways to defend. But the problem with this position, I think all of you can see, is that these guys are a big problem, right? It's a 5-on-5, and my opponent has these 2 pawns. So I think, was this one to win this? What position was I supposed to win this as black? I don't remember. Yeah. Is it? Yeah, it's white. So we are supposed to try and defend this as white. So I think when I played this game, my mindset was to try and create a weakness within these 2 pawns and use the king to infiltrate. But the issue I think that is with this position is that if we go here, right, our opponent is not going to push the pawn. He's going to play this. And I think this may be okay, because I think now we have this move. Yeah, I think this is actually going to be okay, right? If our opponent responds in that manner, this might be okay, because he could still do this. But I think the key push for us here is always going to be this. What do you guys think? Yeah, I think, yeah, because trying to deal with them from the front, your opponent is always going to like find a way to defend the position or to push the pawns forward, right? If you come in here, for example, you can even come in this way, and you can't really push forward. So I think the best idea you want to go for in this position is to bring your rook in. Like, the rook on the 7th rank is a pig. You want to push your rook into your opponent's position and threaten this move. I think that's the way you want to start this. Question is, what is the best response? Should black allow you to take this? If I was playing as black, what do I think black should do? Especially if I can see this move coming in. Do I just play 1 pawn push? I mean, the point with any move you do here, this is the. Oh wait, no, here it's actually quite different, right? Because yeah, I don't know, what do you guys think about that? Does this draw the game? But our opponent could try and do this, anticipating this, but then you lose this guy. And the threat still exists. You would have to get your king out of the position first. So let's say this. Now you can't play pawn push, but then this still exists. And even if your opponent does come in here, I don't know if you'd want to waste time winning this. I don't know if you'd want to waste time winning this. All these lines, will run them through the engine and try and figure out the position here. So I think the first position would be this. I think this would be the first move. I'm trying to figure out a different thing that I would want to play here. I don't know. From my mindset, the way I see the position, rook c7 is really a problem for. It's really a problem for black here. It looks like it's a very big problem for black here. How does black deal with this? We can like try and prevent our opponent from moving. But now the king has entrance into the position, right? The king has entrance into the position. In this case, then we bring our king forward, I'm guessing, as well. I'm guessing that's what we'll do as well in this position. And a 0.5 does not necessarily mean losing. So let's see. So my first idea is, or not my first idea, my idea is always going to be rook c7. What I don't know of is how my opponent is going to respond to this. I was thinking that a single pawn push might make the difference because the rook is defending the position. So pawn push may not be the best idea. But what I'm noticing is that after pawn push, if the king comes in here, this move exists, the rook comes in to defend, right? So that may not be good for me at all. Because I go in this way, check, my opponent takes, I take, he can play pawn push or he can even defend here. And this could be a draw. This could be a draw because the pawn is on the rook file. So it could be a draw. I don't know. So let's see the two ideas. We are looking at rook up and seeing what our opponent. So we need to know what our opponent is going to do first here. A5. A5. So okay, engine thinks A5 is the best move for our opponent. Then if we do this, oh okay, similar thing. I think it's a similar thing here. You kind of hold off on moving your rook so that you can deal with this idea. Okay, so let's say our opponent does not deal with it. Let's say he goes this way first. But what happens? E6 is very strong. E6 is a very strong move here. Point being, your opponent comes in here. You can go, I'm going to say even rook take, but you can take this way and your opponent goes on the defensive. If you come in this way, we can take this way. If you take, I don't know which one you take, right? Whichever one you take with, then you just run into this. And that's about it. So you can't draw this position. So the onus here is on our opponent to figure something out. So, okay, so the move here is A5. After A5, I'm expecting that we can go rook to B3. Rook to B7. So what does our opponent do here? Because if he goes back, we win it. We win this guy. You can come again, the rook can come in to defend, but it's not as bad. I think even at this point we can slowly bring our king. I don't know if this is the best option, I'm just trying it out. We can slowly bring our king. We can't slowly bring our king. Okay, yeah, I still don't think we want to chase this guy. Because here, pawn push here, pawn push here, pawn push, you just can't do that. So I don't think we can chase that pawn. So I think we maybe go back. I don't know to what square we want to go back to, whether just directly. This is the annoying thing about rook moves, right? I don't know if we want to go this way, or we want to allow it all the way here. I mean, we could wait, right? We could play this first, pawn push, then we come in this way. That way, if pawn push here and our opponent tries this, we are already ready for him. We may not even want to do all that. Now, I don't think we want to allow the rook here. So I think actually we can't even stop that, right? Because if we come in here, our opponent comes in here, and we come in here. Okay, yeah, we can stop that. Isles, please, yes, how are you doing? It's good to see you. It's been a while. How are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, because with this now, there's no threat here. I prefer this one to the other one, because here my king can actually move and come into this square, and my opponent's rook cannot infiltrate, right? Okay, let me delete every line so that we can find out the lines we are looking at. So we looked at this, and we said that if our opponent comes in here, we have pawn push, the king comes in this way, and then we have takes. That's the first thing. The next thing we looked at is what the engine is recommending. If our opponent goes here, and I was saying that we would have to go in this way. We've not checked what the engine wants us to do here. Yeah, I'm studying end games because, as I've always said, I suck at the end games, and I'm trying to bite the bullet and learn it, right? Though I'm not really learning principles. I think many people will be more interested in learning the principles. I'm more or less learning the practicality of it. I do know some principles. I'm trying to apply those principles, but I'm trying to be more practical about it. So these are positions from games I've played against like very strong opponents, and it got to an end game. Preferably a king, rook and pawn, or king and pawn end game. And I took positions with varying evaluations. So one I am slightly worse, one I am slightly better, one is drawn but it looks complex, right? And the aim is winning won games, drawing lost games, and winning drawn games. That's basically what we are looking at. That's what we want to look at in this. So sorry, this is endgame 2. I realized I spelled endgame wrong here. So yeah, we do this. Sorry, if you guys want to see the stuff, you want to come in this way. As always, the links are always made available to everyone. The only thing I don't allow is for you to edit the lines, because there's going to be someone who's going to troll. Anyways, maybe one day I'll start a Patreon or something and then give the password to these ones. Yeah, you struggle with end games too. Yeah, I mean, it's I think every chess player struggles with end game, maybe except Magnus or something of that sort. So here I was, this is the position I was calculating, and I was like, if my opponent comes in here, we can take. Wait, no, wait, sorry, if he plays this now, we can still play this move, and if our opponent comes in here, we still take here. And if he plays pawn push, he has to be a bit careful with this. Pawn push we can take with check, he comes in this way. Okay, but here it's not the same. Okay, I'm actually noticing this. And now the rook comes in here. Okay, so we have to figure this out. And I don't think, I was thinking we want to play this move, but what I realized is that these two pawns are connected. They are what we call connected passed pawns, right? Passed pawns are pawns that are not, whose movement is not impeded by another pawn, right? In other words, there's no pawns to their front or to their side that's preventing them from pushing forward. So the reason I'm not going for this is simply because I want to at least take one of these two guys. And I think if I can take one of these two guys, my king is going to be able to like fight the other one. That's the whole idea of the position that we're looking at here. Okay, so here, if my opponent does that, yeah. So wait, I'm not playing any music, that's for sure. Okay, I am. Yeah, so that's basically what we are looking at here. So if you're interested, you can always join the conversation, right? So rook c8, rook c7, rook a8, e6. So this is a position where we are slightly worse and we are trying to draw it, and it seems possible to draw this position. King comes in and then we come in here. So if our opponent, let's see, another thing I looked at is after a5, your opponent doesn't want the e6 is also the move you'd play. Yeah, because of the pin, you're exploiting the pin and using it to give you like an extra move. So the line actually that I was calculating was the king going back. After we play this, then the king goes back. That was the line I was calculating. Then after rook takes, then our opponent comes in this way, right? Then I was saying that we come back. If our opponent plays pawn push, then we come in this way. But I'm also realizing that now in this position, our opponent can try and come in here, but I don't think it works because after this, rook comes in here, we have this move. He can still get what he was looking for, but you realize in this position that he has managed to get the rook to the position we didn't want it to get to. So this might actually be a better position for black. So we have to look at all these lines, which is very complex. The number one priority is to get our king closer to their passed pawn, which would be like this one. Yeah, but the problem is like, how would we do that? I don't think it's going to be a very like straightforward, I'm coming to attack the king kind of idea. I think you'd have to solve some issues first before you can do that. And I think one of the issues is to reduce these pawns to just one and then get your king close as possible. Oh, okay, getting, yeah. That's basically, yeah. That's also the plan I'm looking at. You know, it's not going to be easy, especially with the rook's presence here. So let's see. So we played rook c7. Then a5 is the engine stop move here. Then rook b7. So rook b7, what does the engine think that black should do? Rook b7 is not correct. Why is it not correct? Because rook a8 takes a4 is my camera is lagging because of the engine. Here I said rook b2. I'm guessing it's going to be because of rook. No, it's not. a3, rook here. g5. What? I was thinking it was going to be because of the rook coming in here. I was thinking it's going to be rook a4. Okay, it is rook a4. We take here. No. Here we play e6, right? Why is e6 not good here? King g7. It's not so plainly obvious to me. I still like in my mind, again, like I'm not so good at the endgame, but in my mind, this is still doable. Like this is still fine for white, but the engine is thinking something. It's many lines deep. It's many lines deep. It may not be so clear, but the problem I notice is that this pawn can get very deep into our territory, and what this enables is our opponent's rook coming to this square, which is something we are trying to fight against. So what we should do here, according to the engine, after a5, sorry, is to get our king closer. I don't like it because our opponent can get closer to the pieces, right? Pawn push, and I don't know what I'm doing here. This may still be okay. This is also actually still good. This is still okay. I would be terrified seeing this, you know, like the pawns have already crossed the 4th rank. I would be very terrified seeing this. But it makes sense because, like, if your opponent goes a3 check and then you hide here, your opponent now has to do other things on the board, right? He can't like just rush this because you come in here, I take here, your guy is hanging, you come in this way, we just win this guy, right? Oh wait, can't he just do this? This is just winning for black, right? No, this is winning for white. So what we play e6 here. E6 is a very interesting move because I think now your opponent has to take. Oh, and the rook would have to go back. Okay, that makes more sense. And now we win this, and because we win this, the position is much easier to play for us because now our opponent always has to watch this. So maybe let's say he plays rook here, we can bring our king slowly to this side and then win this pawn. Interesting. And all these moves I don't think are difficult for black to see. Wait, what? Okay, wait, did I check everything with the engine here? a5, king e2, rook. Was the rook b8 an engine suggestion? Rook a8 was the engine suggestion. So I'll pick the one that is the scariest looking, which is a4. a4 is very scary looking. a4, you play rook here, your opponent comes in. Ooh, this is met with this. This is met with this. And it's not looking salvageable. It's not looking salvageable. Like the thing is, we are already losing this, or we are in a bad position. So there's some kind of like tricky way of going about the position that our opponent would think he's winning, but we can counter attack with it. So here it's a5. Rook b7 is not the move. Again, rook b7. I'm still arguing with the engine here because rook b7 does not look too bad. Rook b7 does not look too bad. Because the line here is very like straightforward, right? Your opponent comes in here, you take here, he goes in this way, you come in here. He comes in here, you go in this way. Then the rook comes in this way, rook to a4. And okay, I understand why it's saying g3, because if our opponent takes here, we have this move. Wait, no? If he does that, oh, okay, yeah, g3, and now we can take here, because now if he comes in this way, we can easily defend it. Yeah. And like Als was saying, now the king is a bit closer to this pawn as compared to the fact that there was a pawn that was far off here. Now the pawn is, oh, it's raining. Now the pawn is much closer to our king. So we can simply bring our king up, pawn pushes or whatever, and we are completely fine. This pawn is always going to be a thorn in our opponent's side. He can't easily deal with it. So I think that would be it. So that would rely on our opponent making a mistake here. Yeah, so we could actually go for that line, right? Because we deal with this pawn, right? And if our opponent comes in here, we just play g3, and he has to play something else. If our opponent gets greedy, this is good for us. So this is kind of like the nuance we are looking for. We are looking for these like difficult, these hard to find moves, or these trick moves that will make our opponent feel like, oh wait, I can do this. Of course, a good player will definitely not take this because he realizes that this is where his strength is. So here maybe you might see the king walking into the position. Sorry. So king here, and then this way. Our engine was saying g4, which is a quicker way of the opponent getting into your squares, right? And now if you even play this move, your opponent can take, and it's going to be a difficult thing, right? Now this takes is actually not bad, right? Yeah, this is actually very good for our opponent. So g3, g5. And how do we defend from g5? King e1? What's wrong with king e2? Nothing. h5. I prefer king g6. King e3. Why is king e3 good and king g3 but like I hate endgames. Oh my god, like I'm just here sweating. Okay, let me try and figure this out. Why would this one not be good? Is it simply because this king can infiltrate? I mean, because you just play this, and where's the infiltration? Pawn push, pawn push. Is it h5, h4? Okay, maybe it's h5, h4. Maybe it's h5, h4. Let me just look at the funny position here. Let's say we do this. Our opponent does this, we do this, and he comes in here and we take. Is this a draw? Almost a draw. It is a draw. That is an interesting thing. What about if he trades off? I'm sure if he trades off, it's still a draw, right? Because we are still close to the rook, right? Yeah. And you have to make a move. Pawn push. Ooh, actually, no, you can take, and if king takes, you take, right? If king takes, then you have this move. I don't know if you want to play, because we now have a5. Here we go back. King comes in. Wait, this is actually winning for black. What? Wait, I did this. You should play east. Okay, this is still fine. Oh, so you play h5 here. Okay, then we get closer. Let's say our opponent gets closer to the pawn. What's the difference? Actually, he doesn't have to get closer to the pawn. He can play this move. And let's say I come in this way. f4 again. King d3 is the move. So this move I made is actually the mistake. I'm guessing the point is if pawn push, takes, we are in the square of the pawn, I guess. But what if our opponent goes this way? Like he's trying to get here. I'm coming. I think we do something along these lines. And then pawn push. I think that's it. Because if opponent goes pawn push, we take. And if he comes in here, we get the draw position. And then if our opponent takes here, we take here. Even if the king comes in. Nope. No, we still take here. Even if the king comes in, then we go to the back rank. Okay. That's actually annoying. So am I correct with that? Like letting the king go all the way here? Yeah, that's actually very correct. Yeah, because we can... Wait, what? So here is where we play h3. So what's wrong? Why is this wrong? King f5. If we do h3. Oh, is that really it? Is it king e4? The point being, if you come in this way, he can take and you can't move. And if you take, he can play this move. And now you can't come back to defend, right? If, for example, you come in this way, he can just play pawn push. I think that's the point, right? Yeah, king e4. That is crazy. That is crazy. Okay, so we've gone very far. Let's go back. Let's go back. That was a journey of 1,000 miles. So rook c4, a5. I like rook b7, but we are seeing the problem with rook b7. We want to first try and get our king closer, like I was saying. We want to get our king closer. Our opponent plays rook b8. We get the king closer. Wait. Is this where we were? Yeah, this is where we got to. And this position is drawn. Draw-ish. Draw-ish. Minus 0.4. Draw-ish. Our opponent still has to be careful because of the e6 move that we have. So what does he do here? a3 check. King comes up. And then what? King to h6. But if our opponent tries to infiltrate, don't we just play like f5 here? f3. f3. Oh, I think... Is it just simply to play g3? Yeah, it is just to play g3. So you kind of create this wall against your opponent so that he can't seep into the position. If your opponent wants to invade the position in any way, shape, or form, he has to push this pawn. Or because even if he tries with this pawn, let's just give our opponent the benefit of the doubt here. For example, we take and there's still this wall of pawns, so our opponent would have to push this guy, right? And pushing this guy is very dangerous because now you are giving us the opportunity to win the game. So the reason I believe for which white can hold this position is simply because of this pawn and his backward pawn. The relationship between this advanced pawn and then this backward pawn, it makes it very difficult for your opponent to push. So your opponent's plan would be to figure out how he can push this pawn forward without repercussions. But you go this way, I think, maybe not, but I think you can go even e6 here. I could be wrong. Not so wrong. Yeah. So I think that's what we would have to do here. So that yeah. The important thing is that your opponent would have to figure it out. I think that's the difficulty about learning these positions. I'm learning with the engine because I would say the best way to do this, if you want to also study the end game, you've read books, you want to put them into practice. I think the best way to do this is to have a friend who you practice with, so that you're having a human player. So you could go through with him, like try and play the position out like 5 or 6 times. Try and like give yourself options. Then when you are done, then you can use the engine, right? So I can see how a human being is thinking, because here the engine is going to give us top moves, right? I'm trying to play my moves without the engine's assistance and see where my moves get me, and then I try and play the moves with engine assistance to see what I'm missing. Like maybe I might assess it, like the way I assess this position, a5 rook here, I assess this position as very good for white, in the sense that white can draw this position, but the engine is like, nah, it's not. I don't see how with the engine's evaluations, but you get the whole picture here. Okay, actually now that I think about it, I see how, right? The rook can actually prevent you from, we saw a line like that, if you can remember. We saw a future line where our opponent can prevent our king from getting close to this pawn by coming here. So maybe you don't want to cede this line just yet. You want to get your king a bit closer. Yeah, so what we've learned here is that in this position, right, my opponent is just a singular pawn up, right? This is 4 on 5, right? 4 versus 5. So our opponent has what do you call it, 1 extra pawn. And in these rook end games where your opponent has 1 extra pawn, you can draw them. You can draw them. And this is a very difficult position because here your opponent has 2, not just pass pawns, but 2 connected pass pawns, which is harder, right? So that's why we're looking at this position to try and figure out what we can do against this. So what we realize is that we're fortunate enough to get this active king, rook, and this pawn here. So once we got this and we got our pressure set, the idea is simply, like Als was saying, centralize your king. And I think the second thing is try and deal with one of these pawns. If you can deal with one of these pawns and then centralize your king in such a way that it can get closer to these guys, then you can draw the position. Though you also have to be very careful about your opponent infiltrating here. Here black has all the cards, so the slight mistakes of white, the very slight mistakes of white will cause him to lose the game. Whereas if black gets overly confident and starts playing anyhow, I mean, like black gets confident and starts thinking that he's the one pushing all the questions, he will get into a point where he thinks he's asking the question, but rather he has made a mistake and drawn the game. He would have to really blunder for him to actually lose this game, because it's very possible he can lose again with this guy. Imagine the rook going on a long journey and the king coming forward. This pawn is going to have its time, right? So yeah, that would be it for this position. Yeah, end games always get my head to ache me. They really get my head to ache me. So can I remove that? So this is the main. Okay, no, this should be the sub line. King e2, we can make this one the main line. Rook a8. Rook a8 is very complex. We looked at these lines, I guess. So we can take some of these lines out. I want to keep it linear so that you guys not here. G5 is wrong. E5 is wrong. E6. Here we have e6. E6 here was not good, so here was bad. But we can leave it in so that anyone who wants to figure out what happens with e6 knows what to do. King g8. We looked at this. We still think this is actually still good for black. Yeah. Let's delete the other lines. Let's delete the other lines. Let's delete the other lines. Okay. What again? So rook b7 is wrong. Okay, we keep rook b7 so that we can find out why it's wrong. even with e6, here we have a4, and yeah, this is the move I was talking about, right? Now we can't get close. This move does exist, but I wonder how. Okay, this is not good for black. This is good for black. Oh, interesting. Let's look at the other ones. Okay, so the king move here is not actually correct, it's wrong. But the reason I was doing it is just to demonstrate what happens here. So we just delete this. Yeah. Okay. No, king a2 is not correct, sorry. Because our opponent, the point I was trying to make is that even if our opponent can find a way to trade off, it's still okay because he can't really infiltrate. Bringing the rook to take here is obviously wrong because your opponent is going to promote the pawn. That's basically what's going to happen here. Okay, so that's this position. Maybe next time, I know I started the stream late, but I actually have to end stream now. I wanted to do, like, most of the 30 streams are very long. We do about 2 hours, but I actually have to do something. So guys, this is the link once again. If you want to go over any of the things we've looked at, you can always find them here, and I'll see you guys next week. Sorry, Friday we have the streamer versus viewer, so prepare yourself for that as well. I'll see you guys.